I'm going to present something that I find truly amazing. It is a new discovery that is called sometimes a fractal democracy. It is a new way of making decisions that is truly the most efficient way possible to make decisions. That's right. It's the most efficient possible solution to decision making. This is truly important and fascinating because decision making is the key of almost everything when it comes to governments, how to make decisions in communities, organization and such. Decision making is key. And if you have a good method of making decision where everybody is included, we can create something that truly can be called democracy. So fractal democracy has been growing in the last 10 years or so, and I have been part of developing this idea. And I'm going to explain the whole idea to you very short and precise. And what makes the fractal democracy so good, it is because of that it is mathematically the most efficient way of communicating in large group. It is proven to be the most efficient way to come to a joint decision. And it is very, very simple. So simple that everyone can implement it and use it and understand it. The basic idea to start with is to form the perfect size group for making a decision. As you understand, it is different to make a decision in a group of, let's say, 5 people than it is to make a decision in a group of 30 people, for example. Obviously, it's easier to come to a conclusion on anything in a smaller group because the large group will spend a lot of time to come to a decision, even a lot of time to share everybody's ideas. So what is the optimal group size for making any kind of decision? Well, some studies has suggested that the optimal group size is in between 5 and 7 people. And this is also the optimal size for actually carrying out project. It is just enough people to get a full and comprehensive view of the whole problem. So 5 to 7 people has enough different knowledge to usually get a very full and broad perspective of the problem. If you have more people than this, you will not add a lot of more knowledge necessarily, but rather you will add complexity, because the more people who are involved in making one decision, the more difficult it will get. There's more social interaction, more of everything that can go wrong. So this is something that is well known. If you're gonna run a project, many people have for a long time said that it's really important to have a good core group that is solid and a core group that isn't too large. So probably somewhere in between 5 and 7 people. And many projects has been run quite well in this fashion, that there is a core group making all the decision and other members are just following. But this is really not a democracy then. It's a rule by the few. So this is not what we're suggesting here, but rather we're just explaining, or I am explaining, the optimal group size, which is in between 5 and 7. So how to elaborate on this to make it a democracy where everybody can speak, and to add the fractal ingredients, which is really the key here. So we have the optimal group size. So what we are doing when it comes to a fractal democracy is that everyone in the community, or everyone who is part of making decisions, will randomly be put into groups of 7 people or so. So if we have a community of 700 people, then obviously you're going to create 100 groups, and each group is going to have 7 people. So then the key here is that obviously each group has the possibility to discuss and come to a decision. And all these groups will have the same problem. And let's say that the problem is to choose 10 people to have to be on a board to actually solve some problems. So we need to find 10 people to put on this board to solve some problems. Let's say it's an economical problem. So we have all these groups and they have the same thing to discuss, and it is who are good candidates to be on this board. So all the different groups can discuss this. They can discuss both the problem, what is needed for this board member, but at the same time what they actually are going to do is to decide in the end who amongst them would be a good candidate. So after discussing, let's say for 1 or 2 hours, you sit in your small group and discuss the issue, make different proposals on how to solve different problems, and then in the end the group votes for one person to be a nominee for the board. So as we have 100 different groups, we will have 100 nominees, but obviously we're only looking for 10. So this process must continue. And so it does. These 100 people who are then representatives for each group, you could say, they will once again be put into groups of 7. So you create groups of 7 out of all these hundreds, and it's easy to calculate obviously that if you have 100 representatives, you just divide it by 7 and you get the amount of groups that you're gonna make. But anyway, all these 100 people are put into separate groups of 7, again with randomization, and these people will start just a new session, and this session will be exactly like the first session. So they all discuss their proposition and ideas around this subject, and in the end, once again, one from each group are chosen by their own group to be a candidate again, or a representative also for the group. So this continues until you have only one group with 7 or less people, and this group is in fact going to be the ones who are making the final decision, and in this case is to create this board. So for example, they will just choose themselves to be board members and a few extra, or they could actually also instead choose other people that they think should be on this board. But they will be representatives and also most likely candidates for this. And that's it. This is the fractal method. And by just hearing this, maybe it doesn't sound very special because it's so simple. It's just It's just a few meetings, and then you will have the core circle that makes the decision. So it sounds very, very simple, and it could be difficult to understand why this is so optimal. But it is the most efficient method, because it takes the just the smallest amount of energy, of time, and it will create the most efficient and the best solution on that time. It is truly amazing. And I suggest that the best method actually to experience how revolutionary this method is to use it yourself. So maybe you are part of some organization of, let's say, 20, 30 or more people, and you usually try to come to agreement by talking all together. Then I would make this proposal that next time you take the whole group and put it into smaller group of maximum 7 people, and do this. Usually small groups will only then need 2 meetings. First, 1 meeting where everybody in separate groups, and then 1 more with the representatives. And so then you will see what I'm talking about. So instead of talking for hours and hours and never coming to any conclusion, and quite frankly getting really bored of listening to everybody with their sometimes silly ideas, instead you will only listen to the people in your circle, which will be 6 other people. And even if one of those persons aren't the most brightest and maybe preoccupied with listening to themselves, which is a normal problem these days, at least it will only be 1 or 2 people. So, and you will be able to listen to them, because you know at least there won't be 30 people with this kind of problems. There will be only 6 other people. So it will be manageable, even though the quality of the individual people that you're listening to won't necessarily be higher, but it will be manageable because of the group size. So you will be able to listen fully, you will be able to even listen to some nonsense, and you will be few enough to be able to actually have a discussion and directly talk about an issue and come to a conclusion. This you can only do in a small group. In a bigger group, this will not work either. Everybody will talk and nothing will happen, or a few people will just take over and make the decision on by themselves and not really asking the group. But this is not a democracy. Obviously, that is just a rule by the strongest or the most intimidating. And that is actually what we have today in what we call a democracy, is the rule by the most intimidating. And obviously there's many articles and a lot of studies going into that to prove why democracy is failing, and it's not a good idea. And rather, there is other people who are also talking about direct democracy, where everybody should be part of the process, but actually that ends up into the same category, because everybody cannot come to a decision. Everybody cannot study an issue to that length that they actually can make a qualified opinion. So again, it will be up to the strongest people who take the most attention to push their agenda on everybody else. It's kind of more a way of selling your idea into the masses to be able to get votes for your issue or for your persona. So both direct democracy and this kind of democracy that we have in most countries today is not a rule by the people, but a rule by the few and not only by the few, but by the ruthless few, I would say, that has the means to propagate their understanding on top of everybody else. But that is all coming to change if we can start using him and sharing the knowledge about the fractal democracy. This will be a new start, and this will be the only way that we can come to a true democracy on this planet, to change the way we are running our countries by having a system like this. And it is so simple, and it is so efficient, because of that you're always using group of 7, which is optimized. So the more people you will have, you will never have more complexity. It will remain the same. It's always the same. You will only have one more meeting to bind together 7 times more people. So it's the complexity is only added one at a time in a linear fashion, while the amount of people is multiplied by 7, which makes it super efficient. For every 7 times more people you want to add, you will just add 1 more of complexity, which makes it super efficient to run large structures. It actually gets more and more efficient all the time. There's always more amount of people in less amount of layers of meetings. So that's very, very important. And this is about it. This is all I really can say. And I just want to leave with this notion that I've been studying this for about 10 years, and I know it to be the best way. And I really want you to take that time and look at it and see that this, everything I say and more. So please use this in your local organization. Spread the knowledge about this. You can read more, for example, on my own page that's called fractalcircles.org. But you can just Google the name Fractal Democracy, and by now there are several projects that are starting to explore this idea. This is going to create a new era where the globalists, the power elite, will not be able to control the outcome of elections, but rather we, the people, will be able once again to be in charge of our destiny. So thank you very much for listening to me, and I hope that you will see really how great this is. This is the greatest gift that we have ever got in our modern society. So please take care of it, use it, and share it with everybody. Thank you.
This is the revolutionary network of Fractal Circles.